Maybe you know the moment. You catch eyes with a small child when they have found some new treasure that they're not really supposed to have. And they see that you've seen them, and your eyes lock, and they bolt. And a chase ensues, and there's a litany then from at least the adult side. No. Or stop. And you catch them, hopefully, before something disastrous happens, and you pick them up and they laugh, unaware of the danger they have encountered, unaware of the precariousness and the fragility of their life just hanging there in the balance. And you embrace them and you hold them and you take a sigh of relief and you decide, I can teach about this later, and you decide to laugh right along with them because they are laughing their head off, because you know that this is part of life. That children break free and test boundaries because curiosity and life and laughter are stronger than their fear, even if not our own. There are moments when life breaks through its constraints. The story flies off the page, the notes dance off the score, something beautiful happens, sometimes expected, but often right when you least expect it. One day something very old happened again, writes the poet Joyce Sutphin. The green came back to the branches, settling like leafy birds on the highest twigs. The ground broke open as dark as coffee beans. The clouds took up their positions in the deep stadium of the sky, gloving the bright orb of the sun before they pitched it over the horizon. It was as good as ever, she writes. The air was filled with the scent of lilacs, and cherry blossoms sounded their long whistle down the track. It was some glad morning. The women woke early, the text says, before the sun, to go to the place that Jesus had been laid. They were going, as people have been going for centuries, to the grave, to any grave, to remember a loved one, to adorn their grave with spices and oil, with flowers and love. In this unbelievable, larger-than-life story, there is something at its core that's so true about life and death. They were terrified and amazed. They were afraid. After some tragedy, after some loss, after some grief, is that not what happens? Don't we meet whatever glimmer of hope, any little indication of possibility and life coming out of despair? We greet it with skepticism, hesitancy, a little bit of terror, a little bit of amazement. We meet any possibility of finding happiness or joy when we're not sure we're ready, or we don't want to set ourselves up for disappointment. How can I be happy? How could something good come out of something bad? I'm not sure if something can really change. We do it in our own lives and in the wider culture. Should I join this rally or speak with this politician? Are gun laws really going to change? Can we make a more peaceful community? I'm not sure. I can't believe that some new life comes out of this, whatever it is. And there is truth to that hesitancy. There is a real place for naming and for knowing real loss and grief, not pretending everything is going to be okay or will be the same or can be fixed. Often it can't, at least not in the same way. And there is also truth to hope. There is a real place for naming and knowing real joy and possibility, where the tears of grief and the tears of joy get all mixed up together, and we stop believing that death and despair will have the final word. We're a little afraid and a little amazed that we find ways to say yes to life again, that we say yes to the possibility of change. Jesus died as an individual, a person committed to justice and inclusion, to welcome the outcast and the marginalized. He disrupted the status quo, challenged the empire, and questioned power face to face with humility and with clarity. And that spirit, the spirit of that love that he embodied and he taught, rose up in a community, rose up in the hearts who believed that a more just and equitable world was still possible, that humanity could be in relationship with one another better. That's what happens when any teacher of wisdom or justice dies. they die as an individual, and they rise up as a community. They rise up and carry out the work that had been started. That's what happened when anyone we love dies. They die as an individual, and they rise and live in our hearts and our actions, even our language and our idioms that we didn't know we got from them. Their impact ripples out in ways that we couldn't possibly imagine. Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away, says the old spiritual. It is a song out of slave traditions, not about escaping this world to some heavenly paradise hereafter. These songs were about escaping captivity in this life into liberation, flying away north, as one colleague said, escaping slavery into freedom, a refusal to let the ownership of their slaveholders own their soul, even in the midst of their captivity. These were songs of liberation and hope right in the midst of hardship, to give the mind and give the heart some sense of liberation, of life and love that was stronger than fear or despair. Each day, each glad morning, the soul can fly, the souls of the living, the souls of the dead. They fly as we wake to a new day, as we imagine new possibility, as we begin to breathe again. Our soul begins to fly toward freedom, toward a world reconfigured in love and in hope and community, out of the tombs of our indifference, our isolation, our fear. The spirit of a person or the soul of a community or a movement cannot be contained by fear. It breaks through in some way, tangible or internal, to find life again. So a few weeks ago, our daughter tried ice skating for the first time. One might think that having grown up in Minnesota, I would have learned how to ice skate. Not the case. As it happens, for whatever reason, I grew up with a deep aversion to putting anything on my feet that would cause acceleration of my body in any way. So on our class ski trip in elementary school, I failed the Bunny Hill crash course and became, as part of my identity, what I now call more of a chalet person. And later on, after I was the only student to turn in the permission slip to rollerblade in Phi Ed class, the instructor and I, just us there, took deep breaths as I fell to the ground quickly and hard twice before he asking me, "Do you just want to go play softball with the rest of the class?" And those rollerblades were off my feet before the end of that sentence. And then later on, I was trying to cross-country ski with my wife, and we got to a small incline, and attempting to brace myself, I snapped the pole and I fell over and returned safely to the car. So a few weeks ago, my daughter, 4 years old, after getting on the ice for the first time, vastly surpassing any skill or ability I had in a matter of seconds, said, "Papa, next time you can skate with me." Terror ensued within. "Sure," I said, in what I hoped would be a lie, and I think she's the only person in the world that would ever convince me to even consider such a thing. So the next week, I tried on some skates, because my 4-year-old daughter asked me to. So I put on these skates, and I stand up in this kind of changing area next to the rink, and, well, you can't really see it there, but just wobbling ankles, just wobbling. And my wife Jenna was sitting there with me, and she looked and she's like, "Yeah, let's take this a little easy today." And so Louisa, who this is her second time on the ice, so a little 4-year-old, she just walks over, steps on the ice, which I thought would be really difficult, and she just keeps going, hands free. I'm amazed, I'm a little terrified at what she's gonna ask next. So she goes, "Come on, Papa." And so I kind of stumble over there, and I grab the edge of the rink, and I put my foot on the ice just to feel what that feels like. And I look down and think, oh yeah, this is a really horrible idea. And Jenna looks at me again like, "Pretty sure you're gonna, lose some limb ability today if you do this." So I stayed over here in the changing area for a little bit, and she's out there gallivanting around on the ice freely and says, "Come on, Papa, I'll skate with you." And so I grab onto the side of the rink and start shuffling, about as slow as evolutionary adaptation. And I go a little bit at a time, and I turn around, and there she is. And she's like, "I'll skate with you, Papa. I'll stay right next to you in case you fall down." And I thought, if I fall down, honey, you're not going to be wanting to be right there. You're just going to get crushed. But I said, okay. And I can't imagine what the other folks on that rink were thinking in this open skate time, seeing this terrified, giant 6-foot man clutching the edge of the ice rink for dear life, and this little 4-year-old just going along easy next to him. I'll help you, Papa. All we need is hope, sings Anja Day, and sings the choir. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and we will rise. We have each other. That's how we overcome our fear. That's how our hearts find their way out of whatever tomb they are in, out of sorrow into the light of a morning breaking open. That's how we add our color, add our petals to the tree of life, just waiting to spring into bloom. To believe in resurrection is to believe that green shoots come out of the cold winter ground. It's to believe that love and spirit of people last far beyond their last breaths. It's to believe that love rises out of sorrow and creates something beautiful, even when we might not expect it. All of the sudden, there you are when you most need it. When you're slowed down by your fear, your apprehension, your hesitancy, when you question your identity or your resilience or your ability, and someone says from sacred memory living within you or the little one right next to you, says, I'm right here alongside you. I'm not going to let you fall. And if you do, I will try to help you up. And if I can't, I will just stay there on the ground with you until you regain your own strength and we rise together. That's when the story, the teaching, the love flies right out of the tomb, blooms into compassion and grace when you were convinced that death had the final victory and all was lost. Love and life rise again over and over and over in the most simple ways possible, in the daily interactions with those you love, which are the only things that really matter. Like a toddler running away from a parent upon finding some new treasure, like the memory of a loved one gone whose life goes far beyond their last breath, like the first shoots of the spring, life has within it a recreating force, said Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes 140 years ago in this church. Life breaks through. And then you find yourself up through the fear into the light of springtime sun. There's someone's within and right next to you, and you rise together.